What's going on out there, YouTube? This is SDL0320 representing JVS. As you can tell, got the Red Bull insignia. I am here to give you guys a non-spoiler review for Solo, a Star Wars story. I have very low expectations going into this movie. I really actually didn't care for it. I wasn't looking forward to it. I was very much so thinking about like Knights of the Old Republic being created by the developers. I don't know if that's confirmed or not, of Game of Thrones. I was even more enthralled about maybe a Yoda story or even maybe Kenobi, but I was not enthralled about a Solo movie, you know what I'm saying? But I gotta tell you guys, like, for better or for worse, for all the things that happened behind the scenes and everything with Ron Howard and the previous directors, this was a very fun movie. I can't stress that enough. The movie itself services the fans and people that just want to look at a movie and enjoy themselves pretty much very well, because this is the raw bones heist film that you would kind of expect for something such as the caliber of Han Solo. And I think that going back to like Ocean's 11 and other heist films, maybe like Gone in 60 Seconds, it takes a vein from them, especially those early or late 90s, early 2000s films. One thing I thought that was actually really good was the actual characters. I think the characters serviced very well. I think Woody Harrelson did good as Beckett. It played under Han Solo pretty well as like a mentor in a certain sorts. I think that Emma Clarke, known as Daenerys, in this film, at first, the first act of the film, I really didn't care for her character, which sounds really weird, but it was just the situation and the way her character was acting. It wasn't just really, I didn't care for her character, but maybe around the second act and going to the third, they gave her a really interesting arc, and I actually really appreciated it. Most people are going to be talking about, of course, Donald Glover and my man Alden Ehrenreich for Han Solo. I think that getting into Donald Glover, the man is a straight up artist. Like he carries himself with swag. Like he knows how those subtle nudges, those mannerisms, he knows how to perfect the scene. I think he's a perfectionist in artistry, and I think it translates to his acting. And I mean, he definitely embodies everything that Billy D. Williams brought to that role of Lando Calrissian. That's why they're going to probably give him his own movie, which I think they even confirmed that. He does a really good job in this one. Like, he doesn't have a lot of scene-stealing moments, though, to be quite honest with you. I think a lot of people, if you go into this with the expectation that Lando's going to have a lot of screen time, he really doesn't. But the moments that he is in there, it's enough. I think that, honestly, Woody Harrelson had way more screen time than I actually gave him credit for. I didn't think he was going to be in it much at all, but he very much so was a good portion of it. My man Alden Ehrenreich that plays Han Solo, you know what? I believed it. I think that he did a job well done, because there was never a moment I was kind of like, this isn't Han Solo, because he is playing, you know, this enthralled, energetic, wholesome, you know, Han Solo before he's all egotistical and jaded based on the circumstances going on with, you know, this war that he's been enthralled into. Matter of fact, the very opening of it was shot very well. It seemed like a very much so Ron Howard kind of way of shooting the very beginning of it. And it kind of pits him with, I think, three years earlier with Emma Clarke's character. And it's got that, you know, vibe of like, oh, well, what are they trying to get? What are they trying to steal? And then it goes into something else. And by the time it gets to the second act, I was like, okay, this feels like a totally different film. And I actually really like that stretch. I think this is going to actually suffer in a lot of different ways from people's perspective, from a critical standpoint about the pacing. But I think that based on the way that this film is designed, I think it is catered to those comedic numbers, those energetic, I don't want to spoil too much, adventure kind of moments that I think from a cinematic standpoint and from a visual standpoint, the VFX, they spared no expense for the VFX for this one. I think this was actually shot very well. Matter of fact, that tonally, as far as the visuals are concerned, it's more comparable to Rogue One than it is to any of the saga-based films. So I think that visually, the immersion standpoint works very well. But I think, like I said, I think that Alden does a really good job of making me believe that this is a very young Han Solo. And I think he did a really good job. Like, I wouldn't expect him to sit there and try to do everything Harrison Ford did to a T. There are definitely some callbacks, definitely some references there. There's a lot of interesting things in the third act that if you're a Star Wars fan, you're gonna love that fan service, because that fan service, it actually makes this very interesting moving forward. So third act, definitely pay attention to it. Tilda, what's her name? Thandi Newton. She was in this for a little bit of time. I like what they did with her in this actual role. Paul Bettany, who plays Voss. How can I say? I can't say much about him. Pay attention to his face. Pay attention to his manners. Pay attention to what he does. I think that's one thing that it'll keep you immersed into what kind of mental state his character is. I think he serves very well. Like, I think that they used him based on the narrative's plot, where it's gonna go. Now, he wasn't like an all-around villain. I don't even necessarily think the narrative required it, but where they utilized him was actually very well done. I think they did a really good job with the way that they matched him up with certain characters, specifically with Woody Harrelson. My man that plays Chewbacca, he actually was at the screening for a Q&A session. I didn't get to take part in it because I needed to actually get home. But the man is tall, and he gives a great performance as Chewie. Chewie gives, in my opinion, like one of the better arcs that they've ever given Chewbacca. Like, I think that the first time you see Han Solo and Chewbacca meet, and the way that they designed that and everything they allowed Chewie to be able to do, I think it was just great. Like, I think specifically when Chewbacca and Han meet, I was like, if this is the rest of the movie, y'all have me won, because I'm actually going to have a very fun time with this film moving forward. There's definitely, like I said, there's a lot of interesting surprises. I think that tonally, this is not like the saga films. This isn't like Rogue One. This really caters to those people that just really want to have a fun time going and doing this callback to a character that we've known for years, but then there's certain segments of his life that we just don't know. Now, I think that if they would have reached back a little bit even further and gone to, like, you know, who he was before Han Solo, so to speak, and you do actually get to figure out how he got the name Han Solo, which is really awesome. But I think that, man, if you go into this movie with low expectations or high expectations, I think the high expectations is maybe it might rift you a little bit, especially if you're trying to make this in comparison to something like the saga films. I think that you're gonna have a fun time with this movie. Either way, I think you're gonna actually enjoy the ride. Now, it's not the best Star Wars film. I can admit that. I can definitely tell you this. But as far as a serviceable summer blockbuster that's very fun, high stakes, VFX heavy, VFX appropriate, practical effects appropriate, definitely some funny moments. Some funny moments do linger a little bit too much. Some moments just don't. They fall flat as far as the dialogue, specifically dialogue with Han Solo, Emma Clarke's character in a certain stance. I think the very beginning with something that happens in the beginning with Han, kind of like, it was like really emotional, and I was like, wow, this is interesting. And then they go and pay off certain things as far as the narrative from the saga films that maybe takes a back seat as far as the narrative of this story. But again, those are real nitpicks, and I mean, I don't think they undermine the narrative of this story, because I knew what this story was after a few minutes. So I think if you can take that into regard, I think you can enjoy yourself watching Solo and enjoy it for what it is, a great action moment that takes centerpiece to a character that we love, but the surrounding characters are just as interesting in the journey of where this is going to go. And I think it's just, as a whole, I think you're just going to have a fun time with the movies. I give this an 8 out of 10. Yeah, that's all I got to say. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this review. Keep it locked. JVS, we ain't gonna stop. Stay tuned for a spoiler review for Deadpool and Solo much later on. Peace, guys. May the Force be with you.